Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest footballers the world has ever seen. You've watched the goals. You've seen the celebrations. You've heard the famous "Sí!" You've watched him lift trophies, break records, and dominate some of the biggest stages in football. But behind the superstar is a story that many football fans don't know. From growing up on a small Portuguese island, to leaving home at just 12 years old, to overcoming a serious health problem, Ronaldo's journey was anything but ordinary. And by the end of this video, you'll understand how a young boy from Madeira became one of the most famous athletes on the planet. Here are 10 incredible facts about Cristiano Ronaldo that you probably didn't know. Let's start with number 10. Cristiano Ronaldo was born on an island. When people think about Portugal, they often think of Lisbon or Porto. But Ronaldo wasn't born in either of those cities. He was born on the Portuguese island of Madeira. More specifically, he was born in Funchal on February 5, 1985. Madeira is located in the Atlantic Ocean, away from mainland Portugal. And this is where the story of Cristiano Ronaldo began. Before the massive stadiums, the trophies, the millions of fans, and the worldwide fame, there was simply a young boy growing up in Madeira with a huge passion for football. That boy would eventually become one of the greatest players in football history. Now let's move on to number 9. Have you ever wondered where the name Ronaldo came from? His full name is Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro. But the interesting part is the name Ronaldo. Ronaldo's father chose the name partly because he admired Ronald Reagan, who was president of the United States at the time. It's a pretty unusual connection, and nobody could have predicted that the name Ronaldo would eventually become one of the most recognizable names in world sport. Today, when someone says Ronaldo, millions of people immediately know exactly who they're talking about. But becoming that famous required Ronaldo to make a huge sacrifice at a very young age. And that brings us to number 8. Ronaldo left home when he was only 12 years old. Think about that. At 12 years old, most children are still living with their parents, going to school and spending time with their friends. But Ronaldo had a different dream. He wanted to become a professional footballer, so he left Madeira and moved to Lisbon to join Sporting's academy. It was a massive change. He was young, he was away from his family, and he had to adapt to a completely different environment. But instead of giving up, Ronaldo focused even more on football. He trained, he improved, and he kept pushing himself. That decision to leave home would become one of the most important moments of his entire career. But just a few years later, Ronaldo faced a challenge that could have completely changed his future. And that brings us to number 7. When Ronaldo was 15 years old, doctors discovered that he had a racing heart condition. For a young footballer trying to make it professionally, this was a serious setback. At that age, Ronaldo was already dreaming of becoming a professional player. But suddenly his health had become a major concern. He received treatment for the condition. And after recovering, he returned to football. He continued training. He continued improving. And most importantly, he continued chasing his dream. A few years later, the teenager who had faced that setback would be playing at the highest level of football. And that tells you something important about Ronaldo. His career wasn't built without obstacles. He faced them, and he kept moving forward. Now let's talk about number 6. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo today, and you'll see an incredibly athletic player. But Ronaldo wasn't always built like that. When he was a young player at Manchester United, he was much slimmer. He had incredible talent, speed, and technique. But over the years, he completely transformed his physique. Through intense training, conditioning, nutrition, and discipline, Ronaldo developed into an incredibly powerful athlete. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It took years. And that physical development became one of the biggest weapons in his game. His speed became more dangerous. His strength improved. His ability in the air became extraordinary. And his physical condition allowed him to maintain an incredible level of performance for years. But that leads perfectly into number 5. Ronaldo's ability in the air became one of his most dangerous weapons. He's famous for scoring spectacular goals with his feet. But some of his most impressive goals came from headers. His jumping ability, timing, positioning, and strength made him incredibly difficult to defend. Defenders could be standing right next to him, and Ronaldo could still rise above them and connect with the ball. And when he reached his highest point, it sometimes looked like he was almost floating in the air. This became one of the trademarks of his game. But Ronaldo wasn't only an incredible athlete. He was also one of the most productive goal scorers football has ever seen. And that brings us to number 4, the Champions League. Ronaldo became the all-time leading scorer in UEFA Champions League history. He has scored 140 Champions League goals. Think about how incredible that number is. The Champions League is the biggest club competition in European football. It contains the best clubs, the best defenders, and some of the highest pressure matches in the sport. And Ronaldo repeatedly delivered on that stage. Round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. Again and again he scored when the pressure was at its highest. He became synonymous with Champions League nights, and his record is one of the biggest reasons why so many people consider him one of the greatest players ever. But there's an even crazier Champions League statistic, and that's number 3. During the 2013 to 2014 Champions League season, Ronaldo scored 17 goals in one Champions League campaign. That's an incredible number. He scored against some of Europe's biggest clubs as Real Madrid went on to win the Champions League. And that 17-goal total remains the record for the most goals scored by a player in a single Champions League season. It wasn't just about scoring a lot of goals. Ronaldo was doing it on the biggest stage, against some of the strongest teams in Europe. And that season became one of the greatest individual Champions League campaigns ever. But Ronaldo's records don't stop at club football, because number 2 takes us to the international stage. Portugal. Ronaldo became the greatest men's international goal scorer in football history. UEFA currently lists Ronaldo with 146 international goals for Portugal. That means he has scored more goals for his country than any other man in international football. And remember, Ronaldo has represented Portugal for more than 2 decades. He went from being a young teenager with a dream to becoming the face of Portuguese football. He played in major tournaments. He scored important goals. He captained his country. And he helped Portugal win the European Championship in 2016. From his first appearances for Portugal to becoming the country's legendary number 7, Ronaldo's international career has been extraordinary. But now we reach number 1. And this might be the most important secret of them all. It's not a particular goal. It's not a particular trophy. And it's not a single record. It's the transformation. When Ronaldo arrived at Manchester United as a teenager, he was already extremely talented, but he wasn't the finished product. He still had weaknesses. He needed to become stronger. He needed to become more consistent. He needed to improve his finishing. He needed to improve his decision-making. And he needed to become more physically prepared for the highest level of football. So he worked, again and again. He trained his body. He trained his technique. He worked on his finishing. He improved his movement. He focused on his diet. He focused on recovery. And he developed an incredible mentality. Over the years, the talented young winger became a complete attacking player. He became faster, stronger, more clinical, more intelligent, and more consistent. That transformation is one of the biggest reasons Ronaldo was able to stay at the top for so many years. Talent got him noticed, but the work turned him into CR7. And that's what makes Cristiano Ronaldo's story so fascinating. It isn't simply the story of a footballer who was born talented. It's the story of a kid from Madeira who dreamed of becoming a professional footballer. A kid who left home at 12. A teenager who faced a serious health problem. A young player who transformed his body and his game, and eventually became one of the most recognizable athletes in the world. From Madeira, to Lisbon, to Manchester, to Madrid, to becoming a legend for Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo's journey is one of football's greatest stories. So now, I want to know one thing. How many of these facts did you already know? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more football stories, facts, and incredible moments. Because this is only the beginning. CR7, one of football's greatest stories ever.